Hey, we're going to talk about bone health today. I was actually going to talk about bone health anyway, and this article came up from Women's Health. I only have one article left. That's a bummer. This article came up from Women's Health, and it was actually all on bone health. So I figure, hey, might as well use the article to illustrate some points about how terrible women's health is. Okay, so name the article: Exercises every woman should do to support bone health per doctors. All right. Anytime that I see doctors and exercise in the same sentence, I always cringe a little bit, and I always know that it's probably going to be a bunch of not great information. Now, to be fair, this particular article, every woman should do to support bone health, this is not specifically talking about building stronger bones. However, the entire article is essentially on building stronger bones. So that's really what we're talking about. Now, first of all, I want you to understand three big things. I made some notes here, right? So first thing, this is called Wolff's Law. Wolff's Law essentially explains how you build bone tissue. Now, in terms of building bone tissue, Wolff's Law essentially says the heavier you are and the more force that you have applying through your skeleton, the stronger your bones are. Okay, that is Wolff's Law. All right. So heavier you are, so if you're only like 100, if you're like a female and you're 5'2", 110 pounds, you're not that heavy. If you're a female and you're 5'5", 300 pounds, or 5'2", 250, that's pretty heavy, okay? So if you are a lighter female, like 110 pounds, 150 pounds maybe, then you have to lift heavy weights in order to make your body weigh heavier, okay? So that's basically Wolff's Law. The reason why having strong bones is so important is, depending on the research that you read, 30 to 50% more likely of dying in the next year from a hip fracture. So if you're over the age of roughly 60, and again, it just depends on the research you read, if you're over the age of 60 and you suffer from a fracture, now specifically this is hip or femur, you are 30 to 50% more likely of dying in the next year. That's some crazy shit right there. All right, so we don't want weak bones, okay? Some other 2 points that I want to get into that have to do with Wolff's Law, and then we'll get into this article. Obese people don't have weak bones. So if somebody's 350 pounds and they're walking around, they got pretty strong bones. They can't have weak bones because if you're 350 pounds and you're walking around and you have weak bones, then every time that you take a step, you could potentially break your femur. Okay, so very obese people, very overweight people, they have strong bones. If you have a history of being overweight, you most likely have very strong bones. Okay, and lastly, and we see this a lot, a BMI of under 22.5 for a long period of time, especially in the teens and the 20s, because that is essentially when you are building the most amount of bone for females. So BMI of under 22.5 means that you're way more likely to suffer from age-related lifestyle diseases like osteopenia and osteoporosis, so specifically musculoskeletal issues. And we see this practically in 9 out of 10 women that come in and work with us. When they come in and their BMI is low, under that 22.5, or they come in and they have a high BMI, but for the majority of their life, their BMI was under 22.5. All right. So if you do have a BMI of under 22.5 now, or for an extended period of time, like 10 years when you were younger, you probably have a higher likelihood of developing some osteopenia or osteoporosis. All right. All right. Let's get into the article. So I hit those notes. Got to make sure I stay on track. I will, like, bone health may not be something you think about every single day. I think about it every single day with our clients because we have a lot of older women that we work with. And the last thing that I want is for that person to injure their hip or, break a femur, and then all of a sudden their quality of life drastically changes and they're dead the next year. Nobody wants that shit. All right? So you should be thinking about your bone health. Now, normally you don't get a bone mineral density scan until like your 60s, which is way too late. Okay, you certainly could build stronger bones in your 60s, but I'm gonna tell you what, it's a hell of a lot harder to build stronger bones in your 60s than it is in your 20s and 30s. Okay, so you don't want to wait until your 60s to find out that you have osteopenia or osteoporosis. You want to find out that shit earlier. All right. I'll have a link to this article. They do bring up some interesting points that are all fairly true in the points that they bring up. The best exercises for bone health not only help build bone strength, but also improve muscle mass. In the grand scheme of things, you cannot separate those two. So a lot of times the best exercises for building large amounts of muscle tissue are the best exercises for building strong bones in women. Okay. Um, let's get into here. Blah blah blah. Osteoporosis. Osteopenia comes before osteoporosis. So osteopenia. So osteo means bone. Penia means loss. So it's bone loss. Okay. So you start with healthy bones and then you move into osteopenia, and then at a certain point, if you don't do something about it, you move into osteoporosis. So osteobone, porous. Okay. Basically, your bones get pretty porous and they get very weak and brittle. All right. So osteopenia happens first, and then it progresses into osteoporosis. This is very interesting right here. Yes, this is true. Um, the pregnant woman may be more susceptible to weakened bones too. Yeah, maybe, but not a lot of them. Um, how to prevent and counteract bone density issues. This is the good stuff. This is what we're talking about now. All right. So couple things. They got it totally wrong in terms of the sets and reps. So, for instance, they're saying, let's see, 3 sets of 12 reps. 12 reps is way too light. Okay, you're not going to build strong bones with 12 reps. I mean, you'll build some strong bones, but maybe like 1 or 2%. They're just not going to. 12 reps is, in the grand scheme of things, just way too light. Okay. Resting for 30 to 90 seconds in between each set is too short of a rest period, especially in the context of how heavy you have to lift. All right. This weird thing up here where it says suggests increasing the weight by 2 to 10% for upper body exercises and 5 to 10% for lower body exercises approximately every 4 weeks. That's weird. I mean, this is for an article, so they probably have some stipulations they have to hit, but that's weird. Don't worry about that. So within the context of lifting weights, before we get into the exercises they prescribe, I'm going to tell you the exercises that are going to be the best ones for you. All right, so first of all, you must lift heavy. Heavy. What does heavy mean? Heavy means 1 to 3 reps. 1 to 3 reps. 1 to 3 reps away from failure. Heavy also generally means 1 to 8 reps. Now, most people are not going to lift in the 1 to 3 rep range. Most people are going to do 5 reps. 5 reps tends to be a really sweet spot. In fact, 5 by 5, 5 sets of 5 reps is a very classic rep and set scheme to build stronger bones. All right, 12 reps, 3 sets of 12. Not going to do it. Not heavy enough. Not enough stimulus. Okay. Remember, you need something that is essentially sending the message to your body that your spine, everything is being compressed. All right. So it's 1 to 3 reps away from failure. That is heavy. Generally, you're going to stick in the 1 to 8 rep range. Usually, it's going to be 5 reps. A lot of you are going to be fantastic just sticking with 5 reps. You're going to have a long rest periods because you're lifting very heavy, so you need to make sure that you recover. All right. So your long rest period, at least 1 minute, closer to 3 minutes per set. All right. We are looking for 2 main forces. We are looking for compression. So think heavy weight pushing you down, and we're looking for percussion. So percussion would be jumping, running, essentially think beating on a drum. All right, we want those forces. Okay, so generally speaking, what we'll recommend people to do is 3 to 5 full body exercises that are referred to as axial loading. So axial being your spine, your axis. Okay, your arms and legs are called your appendages. That would be appendicular loading. So we want axial loading. We want to load the skeleton. Okay. So we want to load the skeleton with 3 to 5 exercises, full body, multi-joint, compound movements like overhead presses, back squats, deadlifts, etc. But we always want that the force of the weight to be in the same direction as the spine. Okay. And then percussion. Percussion is really simple. You're going to jump 25 to 50 jumps every single day. I don't have that in there. So 25 to 50 jumps every day. Spread it out. Okay? Normally, I want you, when you're in a class with us and we're teaching you how to jump, I actually want you to land like a ninja. I want you to land really soft. I want you to imagine that there's a baby right next to you. And you don't want to wake the baby. For these jumps, to build bone density, I want you to jump hard. I want you to make lots of noise when you hit the floor. Because what I'm looking for is I'm looking for a large ground reaction force, which means that when your legs hit the floor, we have a large amount of force that's going through your skeleton that your body has to absorb, versus I would normally want people to jump, which is a very light landing. Okay, normally for jumps, we don't really care about how high you jump. We care how quickly you can decelerate or how fast you can slow yourself down. I always tell people, don't give me the car, like don't give me the body that can go really fast in a short period of time. Give me the body that can slow down in a short period of time. That's really what we want, all right? But for these jumps, you're going to be jumping hard. I want to hear some noise, okay? So long rest periods, 1 to 3 minutes between sets. Two main forces, compression, percussion. A lot of times, if muscle mass goes up, bone density probably goes up. It's not guaranteed, but it is typically true, okay? It's also true if muscle mass goes down, bone density goes down. Way more true that if muscle mass goes down, bone density goes down than if muscle mass goes up, bone density goes up, all right? And then finally, it is very difficult to build strong bones while trying to lose weight because in the grand scheme of things, when we were talking about building tissue, that means that we need a little bit of a calorie surplus. Not a lot, 100 to 300 calories a day, totally fine, above your maintenance level. So if you're trying to lose weight, you're probably going to be eating 100 to 500 calories below your maintenance level, which makes it incredibly difficult to build strong bones because you're not really giving your body the calories it needs to build those bones, all right? Okay, let's see what they say are the best exercises for bone health. Number 1, squats. This is not, there's no loading here, okay? I haven't looked at any of these exercises either, so you're getting like my raw take on it. So this will not do anything. I mean, like maybe if you're like 89 years old and you've been like sitting on the couch for the last like 9 years of your life, maybe, okay? The issue with this is that there's no external load. It's just your own body weight. You deal with your own body weight every single day when you're walking around. So this is not enough of a stimulus in order to encourage the body to build stronger bones because this is the same stimulus that you have every day walking around. No, I mean, how are you loading there's no weight, okay? Body weight exercises in the grand scheme of things will work for a very short period of time to build stronger bones, like maybe stimulus for like a month or two, maybe. But nobody's going to reverse osteopenia or osteoporosis by doing this, okay? Nobody's going to build stronger bones by doing this. The only way that you would build stronger bones by doing this is if there was like half of her body weight was on her shoulders and it was compressing her into the chair. That would be it. All right. So this is terrible. This might be like maybe this is what they're trying to do for percussion of jumping, but there's no impact here. Okay. So this is a terrible exercise. Seated jack. This is okay. The issue with this exercise is that in the grand scheme of things, you're probably not going to be able to load this exercise heavy enough in order for it to be worthwhile to building stronger bones. All right. Now, when I say heavy enough, let's just say that you are a 150-pound woman, regardless of age. I would want to, for this to be heavy enough, all right, I would want to see at least 75 pounds of you carrying 75 pounds. Okay, so if you're 150 pounds, I want at least half of your body weight that you are ideally carrying the bar in a back squat position, not dumbbells down at your sides. All right. A lot of times we want that loading. We want the skeleton loading. So if I'm holding dumbbells down on my sides, it's kind of loading my skeleton, but really it's loading more of my arms. Whereas if I put a bar on my back and I do this exercise, way more load through my spine. All right. But in order to be heavy enough, again, you're minimum of 50% of your body weight, okay? And a lot of you just aren't going to be able to lift that much in doing a reverse lunge with 50% of your body weight, all right? Jamie weighs about 135 pounds, I think. So, like, that would be like call it, I don't know, 65 pounds-ish. So that's her holding a 30-pound dumbbell in each hand. I mean, that's pretty heavy. If you can get to that point, this would probably be okay for building strong bones. But remember, you have to go up from there, okay? So a big thing that we haven't actually really adjusted is that you must lift heavier and heavier loads. So if Jamie's doing this exercise with a 35-pound dumbbell in each hand, that means eventually she's got to do it with 40 pounds. And then eventually she's got to do 45, and eventually she's got to do 50, right? So we have to lift with continuing heavier and heavier loads. It does not, you don't necessarily, like, don't worry about that weird thing that they're like, hey, every 4 weeks go up by this amount. No, I want you to try and go up every single workout. I want you to try and lift heavier every single workout, okay? Let's see what the next one is. This is not a deadlift. This magazine is terrible. This is not a deadlift. This is an RDL. So at the top of the motion, the weight is in line with her spine. However, as she pushes her hips back and she bends forward, the weight is not in line with her spine, right? It would be incredibly difficult to build strong bones with an RDL based on where the load is distributed. So this is not a deadlift. A deadlift is a good exercise to build strong bones because for the most part, your hands are always going to stay in line with your thighs. Whereas for her hands are in line with her thighs, and then as she goes down, her hands move away from her body. Not so good. This is also not a deadlift. It's like a weird RDL. What do we got next? Push-ups. Not as good as bench press. Not as good as bench press because it's very difficult to load a push-up. So like once you get to 5 push-ups, for you to go from 5 push-ups to like 10 push-ups might take you like 2 years, all right? Or like a year just to increase by 3 reps in your push-ups, all right? Doing a barbell bench press, much better way to be able to load that movement. Even better, overhead press, barbell overhead press. A lot of times barbells are going to take the place of dumbbells within the context of building stronger bones. For a lot of different reasons, I don't really want to get into it, just take my word on it. Barbells, typically better for building strong bones. Push-ups okay, it's not great, it's all right. My mom, who hasn't worked out really like at all in the last 40 years, great, push-ups will be fine for her. But eventually, she's just not going to be able to progress that exercise very well, in which case doing something with a barbell will be much better. No. Nope. There's no spine loading with this exercise. This is awful. It's fucking terrible. There's no spine loading with this exercise. This is never going to build strong bones. Wood chop. No. Nope. Never going to build strong bones. I mean, like 60% of your body weight is supported on the floor. This is the opposite of what we want. Right? Like 60% of your body weight is supported on the floor in this exercise. So how is that loading your skeleton? It's not. It's a shitty exercise. And I love this exercise, but it's a shitty exercise for building strong bones. Now, caveat. If she elevates her shoulders, so she puts her shoulders up on a bench, and she puts a shitload of weight across her pelvis in a barbell, like whatever she weighs, let's say she weighs 150 pounds. Then she does her hip ups with 150 pounds across her hips with her shoulders elevated. We would call that a shoulder elevated hip up. That exercise is actually a fantastic exercise for specifically building more robust hips, stronger bones, especially in the hip, is because you're directly loading that bone with that 150-pound bar. Plank, no. Same thing as a push-up. Plank still builds strong bones. Stop it. Stop it. How are you loading yourself? Where's your spine loading? You're not loading your spine. No, this is silly. Silly. This is the same thing as a push-up, especially in the way they're doing it. Bad. Isometric squat, nope. Isometrics can build stronger bones, but the load has to be incredibly high. Like way higher than what you would typically lift if you're just going up and down doing a couple reps. So isometric squat, crap. Women's Health not doing good on this. Nope. No. This would be okay. So she's doing seated overhead. Again, like 50% of your weight is supported on the floor. This would be okay if she was standing with a barbell. A single arm dumbbell overhead press just doesn't put enough force through your body. Okay, so think of it like this. Like, let's say you can press one dumbbell over top of your head and it's 20 pounds. All right. I'd much rather you press a 45-pound barbell over top of your head because 45 pounds is greater than 20 pounds. I know that's weird. It is. It's true. Look it up. So if 45 pounds is greater than 20 pounds, that means that I'm getting a lot more force when I'm pressing that barbell over top of my head than the dumbbell. This, if you did this exercise with a barbell and you were seated, it would be better. Not cross-legged seated, that's ridiculous, but like seated on like a bench. It would make this exercise a little bit better. But even better is if you're standing up. Because when you're standing up and you're pressing that weight above your head, you are loading your skeleton. I think that's it. What else we got here? Exercises to avoid. Let's see. Avoid the exercise that is probably the best for you. Also, twisting exercises like the one that they have you do in this piece with the wood chopper, you want to stay away from. Heavy lifting, you want to stay away from. Like, wait a minute. In order to we already established that in order to build stronger bones, you have to lift heavy, right? And you have to have some kind of percussion, meaning jumping. Okay. This is fear mongering. Now, I will say that we have had a decent amount of women come in over the last 25 years that we've worked with that have had extremely severe osteoporosis, like off the chart osteoporosis. When you get to that point, you do have some danger doing the thing that's actually going to fix you. So you do have to be more careful. But you don't want to stay away from that stuff. You need to lean into that stuff because that is a thing that is like loading your skeleton is ultimately the thing that is going to help you build stronger bones. All right. Any activity with a high risk of falls are to be avoided, 100%. If you have osteopenia or osteoporosis, I don't want you skiing, okay? I don't want you doing anything that would have a greater potential of you fracturing something, all right? Let's see what additional tips for healthy bone. Pair resistance training, proper nutrition, at least 1,200 milligrams. Whatever. Yes, it's not whatever for the nutrition piece. Nutrition is incredibly important for bone density. However, the nutrition piece is also incredibly individualized to the person. I know lots of people that consume way more calcium and way more vitamin D than that, and they still have weak bones. All right. This is where they're talking about the bone density scan being done in your roughly early to mid 60s. Again, that's way too late. Even earlier, as early as age 50, I like to see 40. I like to see early 40s. That's when I like to see their first bone mineral density scan done. Because if we can catch you in your early 40s before you're premenopause, or before you go into menopause, then we can do a lot of good. If we catch you after 50, post-menopause, much harder to build stronger bones. Always easier to build stronger bones pre-menopause than it is post-menopause. At risk, get a bone mineral density scan every 2 years, while those at moderate or low risk can rate. I like it every year. If you are working on improving your bone density, all right, I like it every year. Even better every 6 months, okay? If we can get it done earlier, like every 6 months or every year versus every 2 years, we can make better changes. And we also know a lot better if the plan is working. You might not see a huge change in 6 months. In fact, to see some bone density change in 6 months is pretty rare. It happens, but it's pretty rare. But if you do it in 6 months and it goes down, then we definitely know that what we're doing is not working, right? So doing it every 6 months lets us know that at least what we're doing is maintaining the status quo. Right? Getting done every year, that's where we're going to actually be able to see if what we're doing is working. It's going to take a year. Like, in all reality, it's going to take you more like 3 to 5 years. We do have some members, like I just had a member tell us the other day, she increased her bone density by, I think it was either 7 or 11%. All right, I don't have it written down in front of me right now, but anyway, that's great, 7 or 11%, and she did that in a year. Now, she was on the bone builder drugs, and she was also lifting very heavy. She was training for powerlifting competition, but that kind of gives you an idea. To build that level, even at 7% bone density in a year, is really, really hard. So if you do have some osteopenia or osteoporosis, you are looking at, for all intents and purposes, a couple years of building bone density, and then for the rest of your life, continue to do the things that you did to build the bone density, because those things are going to be what keeps the bone density, and that'll be for the rest of your life, right? Um, in terms of getting a DEXA scan done, I just looked up DEXA scan near me, and there was probably like 15 places in New Hampshire, right? So there's no reason for you not to get a DEXA scan done. You literally can just type in DEXA scan near me. It's like $100. The other really cool thing about DEXA scan, so we use an in-body to figure out your body fat percentage. A DEXA scan is like the number one way to be able to figure out exactly how much muscle and fat tissue you have. They're large pieces of machinery, and they tend to be pretty expensive. Expensive, so we've never really had the space to house one. That's why we've never really gotten one. Also, up until the last like roughly 10 to 15 years, they've been prohibitively expensive for a commercial gym, which is why you just never see them. However, cost has gone down a lot, which is why a lot of commercial gyms now actually have some DEXA capabilities that they can do. Let's see here. And the rest is nothing. All right. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you don't have strong bones. I hope this encourages you to go check out your bone mineral density. If you do get that scan done, let us know, and we can always work with you to try and build some stronger bones.